Well, I tried to upload this as a YouTube short, but all of YouTube's services are acting funny in the last 2 days, which is also coincidental here. But this, my tractor winch, I disconnected the negative terminal here because it was self-spooling inward. It was actually activating in by itself in weird stepped intervals. It seems to be about a minute and 12 seconds or so, and I disconnected it, but I could still hear the relay clicking. And within a couple seconds, you'll hear it click from this device here. And this is the relay that then sends the signal to the winch to actually do the action. And now I've determined that it comes from this, the radio receiver. You just heard that click, and we'll probably hear it one more time again. But this, the radio receiver, is receiving some sort of a signal that is not from the controllers themselves, because both of them are dead and both of them are off and in a box in the back of the tractor. So neither of them are being activated, and I checked to make sure that the button wasn't doing it. You can hear those clicks are from the button there, and if those buttons were on, it would be continuous. Now this is, again, like I said, it is very spaced in a specific interval, which is really interesting, which means there's some radio signal that's coming through and it is disturbing this at a frequency of about 1.25 minutes. And I'm not really sure what that radio frequency is. It's kind of weird, especially since I'm in a tin building that has a pretty good Faraday cage-like effect to it. So you would think radio signals from outside of this would be difficult to penetrate this room. But needless to say, I'm going to be disconnecting this. I only needed it for the one time I used it, which was to lift the batteries for my solar operation remotely from my tractor's manual winch button. But this little receiver is clicking the larger relay by some phantom radio signal. Now let's listen for it. And look, I've got one hand here, one hand here. I'm holding the camera, so not me, just a standby witness to this. And there it was again. Yeah, so some phantom radio signal coming in at roughly 1.25 minutes is activating this. And I would be curious how simple this radio signal is. I'm sure it's very simple, but it also makes me wonder what else could be being affected by those types of radio signals that are coming from other devices. Most FCC devices have to have the ability to receive interference, so that's part of it. And if you were a kid in the 90s, you probably had a remote control vehicle that you left still on the floor and no one was touching the controller, and all of a sudden it would just spaz out and kind of wiggle and jiggle. I assume something very similar is happening, but it is weird that it's happening at a very repetitive rate. I could expect it once in a while, but this is some kind of a pulse of signal that is very, very intentional in its waveform. So it's coming through in repeat to do this, and I don't really know what it is, but I'll be disconnecting that to solve the problem. But if you have the open road, off-road winch, I would make sure that your little receiver isn't going to drain your battery or cannibalize the winch cable itself, because if this cable had still had, or the line had still had the hook on it, it would have completely destroyed this winch by now. Or if I had tied it off to the front of the tractor, which I usually do, it would have done that as well. So stay safe out there.